I'm going to preface this with Jennifer was a guest on one of the guest calls. And normally the guests don't talk a lot, but Jennifer's like the funniest human being on earth. So I actually didn't mind. And I contacted her after the call and I said, Jennifer, would you like to be a guest? Because she's hysterical. Plus, she's incredibly smart. Plus, I keep hearing her name about, oh God, I had this problem with IT. I couldn't figure it out. And I contacted Jennifer. I know she's really busy, but she saved it. So I thought, let's get the benefit of Jennifer's genius. And we'll all walk away a bit smarter and have a good laugh. So remember, type question all caps or I will not see it. Okay, Jennifer, tell me every single thing about you and how you came to the audiobook industry.
Well, in the beginning, I was born. My mother was in labor for, oh, you probably didn't want that. Cool.
Well, we can start there.
If we go that far, there may not be any efficiency talk today. Cool. So I was a junior software engineer 2 years ago. And I, before, had done a lot of theater, both on and off stage. And I missed the creative outlet when I was doing more technical stuff. I, kind of talked myself into the fact that, oh, but you can creatively solve problems. Creatively solving problems and being creative, besides just using that create, like, little, are not the same thing. So I missed performing a lot. I'm glossing over a lot, but I got hit by a car 3 years ago, and that kind of made me do some soul searching of what was important in my life.
Okay, I'm going to stop you here. I didn't want to ask the question just in case it was too private, but I'm so glad you brought it up because I saw your story and it's fascinating and very dramatic. And yes. It was like life and death, wasn't it? Like you could have been killed.
I could have been dead. I could have died. Sorry, that's.
But it was major. It really was major. I'm not overstating it.
I'm making a joke of it because that's how I operate. But I was walking. I live in New York, in Astoria, and I was walking to the train to go into the city to meet my friend for a birthday dinner. And so I was crossing the street. I hear out of my left ear, like, car coming towards me, even though I had the right of way. Like, I know people jaywalk in New York, but like I was actually legit walking on green, people. So I walk across the street. I hear the car coming. I turn towards the car because I know I can't jump out of the way. So then, like, all the light bulb moment things that you've read over the years start popping off, like, oh, okay, so if you're gonna get hit by a car, bend over the hood, like facing the car so they don't get sideswiped. It's better for your spinal column. So I turned towards the car. I leaned over, all like in like, nanoseconds, but like I leaned over the car to absorb the impact. My theater stage fighting training got me to tuck my head when you fall backwards. So I got the impact, kind of absorbed this way, fell back, tucked my head so I didn't hit my head, which would make it worse. The car pulls over to the side, but the driver doesn't get out, but I'm still in an active walkway. So I tried standing up, but I realized I couldn't put weight on my
The driver didn't get out.
No, and they drive off in a second, but yay. So I couldn't put any weight on my legs, so I army crawled to the side of the street because you're you're not supposed to stand on your leg if it's like, if you can't put weight on it, it usually means it's broken and you don't want to make it worse by trying to stand on it. I'm talking really fast so that we have time to actually talk about the efficiency thing, being efficient. But so I crawled to the side of the street. I can't get up because I don't have the strength, and also I'm in shock, and I try to look at the license plate like you do, but it was really long and it started with T, and because I was in shock, I'm like, why does it start with T? Why is it so long? And instead of memorizing any of it, so car drives off. So by the time I get to the side and I'm looking up, they don't get out, they drive off. So it was a hit and run. And then two people come to help me stand up, and I won't go into too much detail beyond this, but like one of the guys is like, why'd you let them leave? I'm like, let them leave. What was I supposed to do? Like, biotic, let me just repair my own leg. All right, now I shall chase after, let them leave. New Yorkers, I tell you. Um, long story short, I'm still here. If you want the longer version, you're going to have to buy me a couple of drinks next time you're in New York. And
the part I'm most interested in
yes,
is you didn't, because you hear about this and you think, if I was in those shoes, I would immediately think, right, I want to do something different with my life. This was a quick brush. But you did what I could see myself doing and tried really hard to, right, this isn't going to stop me. I'm
yeah,
going to keep going on the exact path, even though, and it was like the universe was trying to push you off that damn path.
yeah.
Like
I wrote
they
a, I
hit you
wrote
with a car to push you off the path.
I wrote a blog post or a Medium or whatever about it, but basically I'm a firm believer of turning points in your life, and I didn't I the reason this was an issue for me and I tried to go back to my normal is because I had already made a huge decision at work to work towards being a software engineer. So I was the same week I got hit by the car, I also found out my job was paying for my boot camp for engineering, software engineering. So I stayed on that path because it was so lined out for me. My job was great at the time. They're still awesome people. It's just I wanted that creative outlet. So there's a thing with fear and letting it hold you back. For me, it wasn't a choice based out of fear, though, to stay on my just tried and true path. It was trying to feel normal and trying to make sure that they who hit and run and like all the psychological things that come in with that didn't impact my life more than they already had. The 10 weeks that I couldn't put weight on my leg, all that jazz, like is small fish compared to a lifetime of letting them impact my life. So that's kind of why that decision happened. Months later, after like I was healed up and could like, I don't know, walk, uh, other things became clear to me of what I wanted. And I pushed towards doing this. I got the option to either, move to a different department at my work or leave with a severance, and I chose the severance and then started this.
And did you already listen to audiobooks and just think, I could do that, I want to do that?
I was so let me preface this by saying I was so busy because like I'm not somebody that's like, oh yes, I'm going to gingerly go through life doing this one thing. I packed my days so full that like I usually only listened to audiobooks like on road trips or stuff like that. I enjoyed them. I wasn't reading for pleasure either, just so everyone's clear. It wasn't like I was just ignoring audiobooks. But because of my theater background and those type of things, like that helped. And I did dabble in audiobooks before I made the leap, confirmed a year later.
And then the software engineering techie stuff was obviously natural because of your last job, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I also did tech support for years on the phone, like, oh, yeah, I understand you don't know how to use Yahoo. Let me help you learn how to, copy and paste. And then you
Have you
walk them
plugged your
through.
computer in?
Is it turned on? The worst tech support I did is at DirecTV. I was a graveyard DirecTV technical support associate. So like, yes, all the weird calls you're thinking I got. But the main part of that story is people like, is there snow on your dish? Yeah. It needs to be wiped off or it can't send a signal? Oh. So they dust it off and like, oh,
See, I was thinking you'd get a lot of "what are you wearing" calls.
I
The
was trying
graveyard.
to keep this PG, okay? Maybe PG-13. I think you're allowed like one F word if it's PG-13. So
Oh,
I
okay.
use that like that time. Uh,
See, I do the editing.
this is the first time we've had to bring out the bleeper. Bleep, bleep, bleep. She a New Yorker? I think so, man.
No, so tell us how to make our lives more efficient, please.
Sure. So, first thing about efficiency, it's the whole mindset. It's not like I'm gonna make this one thing efficient and like my whole life's gonna change, man. unless that's your mindset. And then yes, it will, because I just said that. But like other than that, you have to kind of really just buy into it. Time efficiency is probably the thing I think people look at the least amount of time. Like, ironically, because it's time is what I said twice. Okay, but if you think about when you worked a 9 to 5, show of hands, because I'm not allowed to look at the chat, who still works full time outside of audiobooks? Everyone full time?
Let me see if I can get gallery view and you can see better.
I'm looking at gallery view. I can.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Recording is different than my view, but okay. So everyone's full time ish. Cool. I'm gonna bite your stunned silence is very reassuring. Some people aren't even looking at their cameras. Like thanks, James. Undivided attention is appreciated. I love the Romic. All right. So
I'm retired, for crying out loud.
Okay, so I count retired as whatever. You're making a choice to do this. So if you are retired and doing this, even if you only work 20 hours a week or whatever, it's still, in my book, a full-time audiobook life, even if you do it like less than other people would consider full-time.
I suspect what James means by retired is what like I would mean by 3 careers. Like,
he's like, yeah, I totally only do like 45 hours a week. He doesn't smoke. Yeah. I just added that for comedy. Also, I will add random voices and accents to people like telling a story, and that's not the accurate voice or accent. Okay, but time efficiency. So when I worked at a startup, I worked like a 10-hour shift, but like it would be an hour there and an hour back. So like 12 of my hours of my day were taken up from work. And if you think about the 24-hour day and how 8 hours of that is taken up by sleep, so 16 hours is left over, 12 hours of that was taken up by work, that leaves you with 4 hours to do anything fun with your life. Which, when you think about it like that, sounds awful. And a lot of us buy into it, like, and we have to. And what's great about what we've chosen is we don't have to, but if we're still stuck in that mindset, we will feel like we have to. And that's a big thing to be kind of aware of. You are no longer in that mindset, or if you are like still in that place, then you need to readjust.
Yeah, it's like the now I'm my own boss. Turns out I'm the horrible boss.
Or you're too damn hard on yourself, which is my point. Like, you're too damn hard on yourself because you have this built-in like barometer of what a day looks like to work. So if you don't sit down at 9 a.m. and get your 3, hours at the desk and then walk away to have your lunch break and come back, like that structure works a lot of the time, but for efficiency, it sucks. So I'll talk through like a few of my steps of what to think about for that. But let's say you want to, very arbitrary, get roughly 2 finished hours in a day, right? If we're talking about a guesstimate of a 2-to-1 ratio, meaning it takes you 2 hours of time in the booth to make 1 finished hour, that means to get those 2 hours, you only have to work 4 hours. So if you only work 4 hours, by that same logic as before, that means you have 12 hours to do whatever the hell you want, which means your life gets to be more fun. You get to have hobbies again. You get to experience the world. And yes, 4 hours might seem like too little or whatever, but I think if you do it right, it'll benefit you a lot. So what I mean by that is not that you have to sit in your desk, like at your desk for 4 hours in one sitting. I'm a firm believer of the Pomodoro method.
I love that. I tried that for exercise. Tell me more about that, because I never actually.
I'd be happy to tell you more about that. So Pomodoro, you might have seen like little apps around or websites or whatever, or phones making noises while I'm trying to talk. I muted it, it's fine. But the beginning version, Pomodoro Lite, is you do 25 minutes on, You have like your tasks written down. That's a gimme for all of them. But since we only have the one task, a singular focus of recording our book, or editing our book, or prepping, whatever, you do 25 minutes on, then the timer goes off and you take a 5-minute break. You give your brain time to relax. You come sit back down, 25 minutes, singular focus, meaning when you're doing this, you want everything turned off. Now, if you think about it, 25 minutes, like even if you get a super urgent email or anything like that, like in 25 minutes, it'll still be okay to respond. I posit that you could respond once a day and even those urgent emails will be fine. Like no one needs an immediate reply. If they do, they'll call you, like, or text you, or that's why people have more than one way to get a hold of you.
And you train them. You train them the way.
Train them to not be like,
yeah.
at their beck and call. So you do that, and then after 4 or 5 of them, depending on you, you'll take like a 20-30 minute break and then start over. So if we're talking about 25-minute Pomodoros for that 230 minutes, so the 4 hours we were talking about, that's about 10 Pomodoros a day of those 25 minutes. So you can do that spread out through the whole day. You can do that spread out through the whole week, whatever works for you. That's the beauty of it. So now just to take a quick detour from that, 25 minutes is the easiest amount of time, but actually based on scientific fact, I should be wearing glasses. Oh, I have blue, like, when I'm saying science stuff, I'll just throw on. So based on science, no, all right, I'm done.
Much more believable.
Yeah, this just looks like I'm talking out of my butt. So science says that 52 minutes is usually, like on average, is what the attention span is. And then a 17-minute break to reset so you can be ready for the next 52-minute.
I like that better. I like that better.
Yeah, so there's a huge spectrum of these. If you go into the publishers, some of them expect you to do kind of like a 90-minute. I will posit that you're not doing all of your engineering at that time, so it's a lot easier to sit for 90 minutes just reading, as opposed to also punching in and also moving your header and also doing.
You mean in their studio?
Yeah.
Because over here, you go in at 10 o'clock, you get out at 2, you have lunch, then you go back in until 6.
Yeah, so it's what I mean is like a 90-minute on and then like a 10-minute break, like a little like bathroom break and then 90-minute and lunch and then 90 whatever.
I always felt embarrassed to ask for a break. I probably should have, because it kills you. You think you're going to die at the end of the day.
So here's the trick. Most people are fine if you need to pee. So just say like about 90 minutes in, like, hey, can I do a quick, pee break? And they're like, yeah, we'll be back in 5. They probably sound more British than that, but once again, I'm not
okay. I derailed you. You can't let me do that. Go ahead.
Oh, cool. So some people give it a specific time. Some are just really aware of their bodies when they're doing it. So whatever works for you. Once you know what your attention span is, how much of a break you need, whatever is, just set a timer so that you stay on task with that timer. Not like, well, I did my Pomodoro for 25 minutes. I think a 2-hour break is good, and then I'll come back. Like, that's not really planning it out. You can, if you like are making a conscious effort not to call it a break, but like, I need to walk away from this because I'm not being efficient, that's fine. You're like, you know what? I did 1 Pomodoro. I'm going to come back and do the other 7 or whatever later today. So what they usually say is start with like a small interval. Like if 25 even seems too much, you could even start with 5 and then every day add 5 more until you can sit there for 5 minutes. I think we've all graduated the 5-minute mark, but if you needed it, you can definitely start at 5. So once you have that magic number, I'll use 10 per day, like the 25-minute ones, just for ease of math. So if I did, all right, I'll whatever. So 10 per day. So that's 50 per week. But it doesn't have to be like, it's going to be on YouTube. They're going to be like, she doesn't know math. But it can be broken up overall 7 days. So like if you have a day where you're super tired because you didn't get sleep, or a day that you can't emotionally handle it, I mean, come on, COVID has taught us that there are days where we just need a freaking break. Like, that's okay. Take the break. Just know that you need to hold yourself accountable to get those 50 Pomodoros in over the week. So one day you'll be super up and super on the ball and everything you touch is gold and you feel amazing. And then you're like, I can do 5 more Pomodoros. And then all of a sudden you have 15 done in one day and you're like, how did I do that? And no one knows. And the next day you're like, oh my God, I went too hard yesterday. And then you can have a break. Either way, your work gets done and you get to have the life you want. So does that kind of make sense as far as time management and efficiency at a time perspective? Make sense? Anyone have questions they want to ask? They can either shout it out or our fearless MC can handle it, and I'm not looking at the chat.
We know, and we don't have a lot of questions yet. They usually come in towards the end.
So. I've given them an option because like Pomodoro is a confusing subject. Just kidding.
I've tried it. I find my challenge. I find that I think it is because I'm too strict of a boss. So I know myself. So I'm like a naughty child whenever I lay down the rules. So if I try to like do some of my Pomodoros tomorrow, then tomorrow I won't feel like it because life. And then I'll like push those Pomodoros over until like on Friday. I have so many Pomodoros. I have to wake up at 5 a.m., stand and not take a break to pee.
What do you do instead of the Pomodoros?
Sit there and beat myself up about not doing Pomodoros and sit on the computer wasting time on Facebook.
Correct. Feeling
really bad about why I'm such a horrible, rubbish narrator.
And all of those things are exactly why you can't look at it like that. Like you can't even, if you're not doing your Pomodoros or work, you shouldn't even be sitting at the place where you work. Like you need to be away from your computer. You need to be doing other things. Even if you're watching TV, I'm not saying you can't do anything technology, but like if you're sitting at the place where you work, you're going to feel like you're working. So your body is going to get tense. You're going to get like pain in the middle of your shoulder blade because you feel like you're working all the time. And what you just said and what I know for a fact, because I'm usually on Discord or doing like a bajillion other things, like all those people that like, I have an emergency, and I'm like, I'm here for you. And then it's like that Mrs. Doubtfire moment, like, I'm home, I'm coming, you know, and like you're running down the like hallway, I got you. I'm coming, dearie. I don't know what he says, but the point is, if you are sitting at your desk, it feels like work, and it shouldn't feel like work. It should feel like drinking eggnog, watching Muppets Christmas Carol for the 18th time that year, and not caring if anyone has a big deal with that. It should feel like that. It should be fun. You should be able to go hang out, like, you know, on a Zoom call, but like use your phone instead, so it doesn't feel like work. Right now, we are all attached to this like very small work area because we do Zooms and we do other stuff, and it's usually our computer that we use for it. If you have a laptop, take your laptop to another room that has better lighting anyway, because like this lighting gets old, and enjoy your day.
You're right though, huh? Because our bodies keep track.
But the point is, like, we work for ourselves. We're not late. We're never late if we're like, you know what, I'm working tonight. I can't tell you how many times I like, you know what would be great? Like I wake up early and I like do my little stretches and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit down, and like my brain's like, girl, I'm gonna need like 5 more hours before I'm ready to read. I'm like, okay. Then I go out and like do something else. Like if you fight yourself, like so with that being said, because I know Jen tends to like play a little fiddle and like everyone's like, oh, dream, the impossible dream. I get it. But the other thing is have a routine, an efficient routine that gets you in the zone to work. There's a lot of overlap with sports psychology in what we do, because especially with tennis and those type of things, because you're you against the world pretty much. You know, you don't have anyone else to rely on in your you know, in your thinking and like whatever. If you're having a bad day, you can't be like, well, my scene partner will take me through it. No, you are the only one in this box that can handle it. So That being said, there are ways for you to get in the zone that include, I always steam after I do my neck stretches, after I do this, I have a 15-minute planned out, get ready for work routine. So what that means is when you start that 15-minute routine, your body's going to know like, oh, we're getting ready to work. Your body doesn't necessarily care if it's 9 a.m. or 8 p.m. in the evening because you slept all day. Guilty. I've never slept till 8, maybe. But your body will get the cue. It's like any other thing in psychology. There's a cue and then there's a habit and then everything else falls in line. So you steam, you do your vocal warm-up, so you're not fighting any of your tools. And your tools include your computer and they include your body. So if you're not fighting those things and you still can't get in the zone, then I'm like, all right, try 5 minutes. That's the kind of thing, like Pomodoros can be really flexible. If you're like, well, let me try 5 and then I'll take a 2-minute break and like slowly you'll get in the zone and then you'll be like, why don't we go crazy and go for 90 minutes straight? Whatever your brain's telling you can do, you can do. So you'll get familiar with it.
Okay, we have a question.
All right.
I'm going to interject. Fiona would like to know, how do you balance your schedule between narration, auditions, contacting publishers, researching good books to narrate, etc.? Cool. Researching.
So if you're in that kind of thing, then you would add those, you'd give them kind of a value. Let's say it's an extra hour every day. So instead of like aiming for 240 minutes, you're now aiming for whatever that is. I'm just kidding. It's 300. Everyone, I'm just kidding. So you're like, everyone's like, she doesn't know. Like, I can't trust her. She's not a subject matter expert. Okay, so
math is overrated. We won't judge.
I mean, we have calculators for goodness sake.
Also, we're narrators. It's not many of us that were math geniuses in school. We were the ones that wanted to read during reading time.
So those 300 minutes then. Not all of it has to be narration. I last year was focused on editing and narrating and had to kind of do 2 jobs. So I had some of my Pomodoros for editing and some of them for narrating or whatever it is. Like, you make it make sense for you. Like, if you know every day you want 30 minutes to do that type of stuff, you just say like, okay, this one Pomodoro is for this, like author outreach or research. Just when that timer goes off, you make a bookmark of where you were in the process, unless it's like really juicy, and then you can extend the Pomodoro for a little bit, finish the task you were finishing, and then move on. But just make sure you don't let something that was only supposed to take 30 minutes of your day take 8 hours of your day. Like, oh crap, I was still supposed to narrate because this is what brings me money. No one ever showed that to anybody who's like, can you do that accent? The answer is niet.
YouTube for infinity.
It's like, I'm gonna need you to edit that out. Did you say I'm
we'll
like,
see if we can come to an agreement.
No, it's fine. I'm bound to do that again accidentally on purpose.
But you know what? Can I ask you, because I think you've brought to light something, because I am a tiny bit crazy. I have my day scheduled in 15-minute increments until I'm 100.
15 minutes?
Yeah, and I adjust it throughout the day, and if anything changes, I move
Wait, are
it.
you talking like Google Calendar, like
On an Excel spreadsheet that I've had.
Brush teeth.
No, I've had the same Excel spreadsheet since Excel started. I'm that old.
What is on this fascinating, like?
Everything. I'll show it to you someday. Everything. I mean, I even was scheduling my narrating by the minute. But so I'd know, depending on what page I was on, how many minutes exactly I had left in the book. But that takes you out of character when you're checking how many minutes you have left. So I got better at not doing that. But what I'm finding is that my schedule is so strict that you
just open yourself up to being disappointed at yourself.
I'm
like
dreading myself every day. And
that's the thing we were talking about, like the only needing like 4 or 5, or even let's go crazy and say 6 hours of your day that's quote unquote scheduled. Everything else can be fun. So I would posit, instead of planning out every 15 minutes, write down what you want to do for fun or taking care of yourself in that day for those other hours. You can make a list. And if you're sitting there while you're doing the Pomodoro and something flashes in your mind, like have a do later list, like a list where you're like, cool, I really need to do laundry and I'm freaking out about it. Write it down on the list, keep going with your singular focus at the point. Like you can, like anything else, take that break, you know, write it down just for a nanosecond so you remember, but then get back to it because you've devoted that time to that. Pretend it's, if it helps, we've all had those like really urgent things that had to be done by like, you know, the end of the day and super focused you were in on that because you were like, I need to get this done. That's kind of the same thing. You have chosen your 25 minutes to really give you like that kind of urgency. Like every 25 minutes matters that much, and it's okay that it matters that much because you give yourself a break after. That's why the singular focus is important. So it's mindset. It's how you feel about that 25 minutes that's going to tell you if it's, you know, worthwhile for you or if it's something that you should, you know, if it's not worthwhile to you, why are you doing it? Like,
yeah, because you think you could have the perfect life if you follow it perfectly, and then you move those 15 minutes over all day long. You're moving the 15 minutes,
and you're
and then your 15
yourself. Like, and you're treating your brain like it should be disappointed in yourself instead of just proud and happy that it's getting crap done. So
I mean, I couldn't get rid of the list. I couldn't get rid of the spreadsheet. I'd get twitchy and have a breakdown.
You'd be twitchy for a while, and eventually, like maybe.
Oh no.
Like
no, but I could leave blank spots in it.
And leave blank spots and schedule in fun, but like I posit that you could. It would hurt, but you definitely could. You could. It's okay. Like, I'm not saying do it now. I'm not trying to like do a hoarder moment where I'm like, all right, how do we feel about this? Should it go in the day pile?
But saying that,
out?
It's what you said though about writing things down. To me, a spreadsheet is like you get it off your head, you put it in a block of time that you know you have, so you don't have to worry. I have a question for you along with the questions. They're starting to come in. Do you know, Harry says, and I'm wondering, do you know about this? I use ACT with my day in 15-minute blocks, a bit granular. I don't know what ACT is. Do you know what that is?
Is it like a software?
Harry!
You can talk, Harry. Or you can be muted and pretend to talk.
Or you can type more and I'll translate.
I think Harry's trying to talk, but... Oh, there he goes.
Yeah.
Hi.
Harry!
Hello. Yeah,
What is ACT?
ACT is, it was expanded from a contact manager. So it's kind of that manage your whole day and all your contacts and your affairs, your meetings, your phone calls and everything. And some of it's helpful because, for instance, tracking how much time you're spending on a particular project, like a lawyer does when he bills you. But I find you can get in the loops, like moving that 15-minute block, like you said, Daniela, moving it again and again. And it's like, is that some sort of, mentally just wasting time? And I don't.
So I use an app that's probably similar. It's called A Tracker. And it's going to be hard for you to see, but basically you say, tell it, zoom in, enhance. I say enhance. Yeah. Anyway, it's not going to focus. It's fine. But basically, if you could read these, they're all like recording, editing, whatever. And instead of like making a schedule for yourself, you click like record and it like does a Pomodoro for you for that, because you tell it how much you want record to be. So the task itself, and then it beeps at you and it's like, okay, 25 minutes is done for recording. Would you like to keep going or do you want to take a break? It doesn't have an accent. It doesn't speak to you at all. It just is a pop-up. I'm just trying to make that entertaining. But
you might be able to sell them on the accent. I think it would enhance the app.
And I'll also wear glasses while I'm doing it. But what's nice about that is it actually can interact. Like I think I paid $5 or whatever for the pro version, but it can then spit it out to your Google calendar, and then you can see what you did that day, which part was taken up from recording. You can even do a note afterwards and say, I edited or I recorded you also don't have a British accent. Okay, it's fine. Like, I recorded an hour during this time of this book, whatever it is. It's okay to have apps as long as you're not fighting them. If any app that you use or any spreadsheet that you use is causing you to feel less than if something goes wrong with it, then that's not the app for you. If it is assisting you in tracking your time so that if you are a billable lawyer, you can, have that, perfect. But if it's not, then I would say you need to look at your tool. And this gets me to another point. Every tool you have, every way that you do any process can be made more efficient. It can be made to help you rather than hurt you. And when I say hurt, I mean, anytime you're fighting anything you're doing, it's hurting you. It's taking you out of the moment. It's turning off your creativity. It's making everything go to that part of your brain that's like, well, if this just worked better, I could work better. And then you're yelling at yourself and you're like, why am I yelling at myself? It's just me. Like, I didn't design the program. Maybe it's just me. Maybe that's not everyone else. But like, I know if a tool's not working for me, it takes me time to get over that and just get back into the flow of things. That also includes how we search for pronunciations. There's faster ways to do that. There's like Google search. And so I know everyone's like, oh, Jen's gonna show me all her secrets, but like, there's no way I could show you all of my efficiency tips. So instead I'm teaching you how to fish. So you can find what works best for you. And of course, I'll be around if you need me to help you out with that stuff. But stuff like Google search engine, like your own Google search engine, you can set up a custom one. So here's a hint. Now that I've said custom Google search engine, you can Google it and it'll show you how to set that up. But it's super useful. So I have one for like Merriam-Webster where I type in MER space and then it knows it's searching Merriam-Webster because I've set it up like that. And then I just type in the word real quick that I'm looking for and then it goes there. So I don't have to have like 8 tabs open and switch to each tab. And then,
Wow.
oh, I hate that. So I'm like, oh, I want Forvos. I want to put SAY space, type it in. These are just hypothetical, like the SAY and MER is something I came up with. But those type of things are like helpful. They're helpful for every part of your life. If you search on any website, which you do, this is like a way to make that faster. So, but that goes to my point of like, oh, but I've always just went to, the website directly and then searched in the box. Like, that's what I'm used to. But that's not the most efficient way to do things. And I'm not even saying that doing it with the optimized Google search engine is the most efficient way to do it either. But there's a point of diminishing returns with anything. Like, is it 80% as efficient as I can get? Yeah, then I'm not going to fight it for the extra 20. 80% is good enough because it takes time to make those things up. But once you're at 80%, that feels really good. So the other things with that are, yeah, like your bookmarks. So if you don't need them necessarily for a search engine, but like having those cleaned up so like, oh, if I'm doing like Latin, I want it in like the Latin folder within my bookmarks bar so I can, a lot of these are going to be Google Chrome related, so I'm sorry, but I'm sure like other things happen in the horrible.
There's one for translate. If they've got like a foreign phrase,
yeah,
you don't put pronounce, you put translate and put the foreign phrase in, and then it'll come up with somebody speaking it.
Yeah.
I love that one.
There's so many cool things that people have made for us that if we just find what we think, like the way to be efficient is to find your pain point. What is causing me the most pain in my day? Is it every time I try to punch in, it takes me like 18 steps and it's driving me crazy and I can't, like, it keeps taking me out of the moment? Or, is it, because then that's something that you fix in your DAW or like how you see your screen. Like I've gone through a bajillion iterations of like where my screen is compared. Now I read off of my screen because I don't have to turn my head every time I punch in. And I realized that was a big time saver and thing for me. So like a lot of people get used to reading off of their iPad and it's like, it's nice. I have an iPad. I like my iPad, but you can prep on your iPad and then you can transfer that file to your computer and then read off of your computer. Like, you could still do both. It just depends on what works best for you. I'm not saying, like, this is not me saying don't buy an iPad, because Apple's nice. We like them. I have way too many of them.
Can I stop you with a question? Because we're starting to get a lot of them piling up. Kat wants to know, I always seem to think that while recording, I know I could do better, and I keep changing and re-recording. How do you stop doing that and accept that it's good enough?
Well, put yourself, instead of the mind of a director, put yourself in the mind of the listener, is my advice. So the listener only listens once, unless it's brilliant and they want to hear it again. They're like, oh, rewind that, listen to it like 18 more times. So the wins you get are going to be the moments they really like dial in and love every minute of it. The ones that are like, meh, like, it's a 10-hour book. Every one of us, like, even Scott Brick or like any of the others, sorry, Scott, don't watch this. I mean, do, but now you've already watched it. It's fine. But like he, I'm sure, has lines that aren't like mind blowing, but they're there and they get the point across. You have to understand that, like, we're humans. We can't say everything perfectly. And even if you fix that one inflection that you hated, you might hate the second inflection, and then you're overthinking it. Like, did I breathe long enough or too little?
And then it sounds worse.
And then it starts sounding robotic. And over the last year, I edited for others like 50 books, and I recorded by myself 30. So like, the editing for others taught me how to self-direct myself less, because I'm like, oh, you can just be a human. just read the book and do it as much justice as you can. But it sounds better if you stay in the moment and are really engaged with the emotions and not fighting your tools, rather than you just being like, well, that could have been better. Because it probably could, but like, we don't have the luxury of like a VO person, like, who does like a 15-second spot to re-record that 15-second spot 18 times and like, well, I liked number 14 the best. Actually, it's usually the first that they always take, so whatever. But you had fun re-recording it. So,
but it is the first, and it's also, as I interrupt you again, but it's such good stuff, I can't help but wade in. It's also that you're reading the writer's words. What doesn't matter in this book is your voice. Your voice is not important. The writer's words, the writer's characters, doing them complete justice and letting the story tell itself is what's important. So your job is to become the character. And if you're listening to, of course you do it when you start, but you need to get over it. And the quicker you get over it, the better of a narrator you're going to be, because you need to start acting. And you're not an editor in the booth. Just do your job.
Yeah. I'm not even editor in the booth, even though I also edit. I don't edit while I'm recording. That's why I like can't do it right after another, because I have to like get into that frame of mind. One other tip, if you're that concerned that you're not hitting the emotion of the scene or like whatever, is you can hire a coach usually to like direct you the first hour of a book. And then the rest is going to be so breezy because you've already established everything. You've established the pacing. You've had somebody else confirm to you that your instinct, which was already correct, is correct. And then you keep going. Like, that is a way to be efficient for you. Yes, everything costs money. I get that. But does it cost money in the long run if you get the book done faster because you're second guessing yourself less? Like, it gives you more money in pocket, more time to use on other things. So if that's something you're fighting yourself on, then that's a tool that needs like work, right? That's a tool that is not serving you. So, a coach to help you for that first hour to get you in the right frame of mind, then like, do it. Pay them for an hour of their time, get started, feel better about it, trust yourself, and everything else will flow. There's a lot of psychology involved in efficiency because yourself are a tool. So like, if you don't believe in yourself that you're can do all of this, then that's what you're actually fighting. And I know that every single person in this like meeting and watching it on the YouTube is good at what they do. they're fighting themselves because they don't trust it. But
Yeah.
I posit that if you put up a Post-it note that says, Jen says I'm good enough, and gosh darn it, I believe Jen because she's smart and super funny. That's really long for a Post-it. But like, if you write all that down and put it up for a while, I'm sure that'll help you know that that's true.
And coaches, that's why
Jennifer.
I hire coaches. I
Yeah.
don't hire a coach to say, can you please fix me and make me a better narrator anymore? But I
Right.
will hire a coach every few months to knock
Yes.
my head a bit, because you get insular, you're sitting there, you get bad habits. I don't care who you are. You need
Yes.
someone to say, wait, what are you doing? Remember, why are you here? And that's all it is. And one session is like cheap, and it's so
Yes.
worth it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. This was awesome. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Kat. Okay,
Thank
I
you.
think we have another question.
Sure.
No, they're talking amongst themselves. Continue, Jennifer. They're talking about treadmills and listening to Zoom calls while they're on treadmills.
Honestly, yeah, like exercise, and that's another part of it, like taking care of your tool, your body, is important. That means, by the way, getting enough sleep. So like the problem with having everything planned out to the minute is if like something happens the night before, I don't know, like staying up until 1 or 2 in the morning making videos, and then feeling guilty that you got yourself out of your schedule like the next day. Like, I don't know where that would have happened. Like, I've never heard this story happen before, guys. But like, that is important. Like, you took care of yourself by getting the sleep you needed, which means when you do hit the booth, you're going to be better in the booth than if you forced yourself to get up at 9 a.m. when you didn't get the sleep you needed. And then you're like, well, if I force feed myself this coffee, and like, no, I'm not going to take a nap because I promised myself I'd get 2 finished hours before it hit 2 p.m. And then all of a sudden you're talking yourself out of being efficient because you're trying to be efficient on like someone else's terms, which is weird because they're still your own terms. You just like laid it out for yourself in a weird way.
And the videos are like, okay, I'm really have to catch up. I'm swamped, busy. I have an idea. Let's do a variety show, and I will collate 25 people's acts, and I'll do it all within a few days.
I will raise you that your deadline is not for at least 2 weeks, because that's the deadline you put to everyone.
Yeah.
So you could just assign that to a Pomodoro or two.
Yeah.
Tying it back to what I said earlier, and however many you get done in those 2 or 3 Pomodoros that you assigned yourself that night, that's all you do for that day. You go to bed, you walk away from it, you're like, okay, I'll do 2 or 3 more tomorrow and see if I can beat, like, if it helps you, you can play it as a game, like, okay, in this 25 minutes, I'm gonna try and beat my last 25 minutes. And you're like, yeah.
Or use it as a treat.
Yeah.
Because a video to me is like chocolate is to some people. I love doing them. Like,
And
you
you can,
know,
like,
I'm not working when you start seeing videos advertising like, it's a nice day, here's a video.
I have done some crazy things for incentives. Like, if I know there's like things I don't want to do, first of all, let's talk about that. Things you don't want to do should be your first Pomodoros of the day.
Really?
The reason is that's when your motivation is the highest. So if you hate something, and like, so I'm prone to like chronic like neck, back issues. So it might have been because I got hit by a car.
I didn't want to bring it up, but
I had it slightly before too.
the elephant in the room.
Hey, my leg also gets stiff. Anyway, but so because I know that about myself, when I wake up, that's usually when your body is like not going to feel that pain. That's why they're like, okay, so wake up and do the things you don't want to do necessarily. Like, if that means email is the worst thing for you, pour yourself your cup of coffee or tea or whatever. Do your emails first, because then you don't have to worry about it until like a 15-minute check-in, like at the end of your day. Or if you really are like, oh, that scene that I left off on, I don't want to do it, then do that first. Whatever it is, do the thing that you're dreading the most first, because then everything else in the day is going to seem like a cakewalk, because you're like, I wanted to do all this stuff. I wanted to make those videos and I wanted to do that. Like, the quicker you get to the fun stuff of your day, the less it'll feel like, you know, the thing you dread. So get the thing you dread out when your motivation is high and you're feeling good because the coffee's hitting just right. I'm a coffee drinker, so if y'all like tea, that's fine. I'm just going to say coffee because that's my thing. But if the coffee's hitting just right and you're getting stuff done, that's perfect. So do the thing that you dread first. And then if you need to pick me up in the middle of the day, like that's when you should be popping on the treadmill, the bike, doing 10 minutes of yoga, those type of things. Those can also be, if you want to include them in your schedule, they can be one of your Pomodoros. One thing that I've done, if I know I have a lot of things to do and I don't want to actually make decisions, I'll write them on little pieces of paper, throw them in a hat, and whatever my Pomodoro is next is whatever I pull out of the hat and read. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm doing this for this 25 minutes, and then I do it. So that's another fun thing too, if you don't want to make a decision. If you're dreading literally everything, and throw in one fun thing to do for a 25-minute block or Pomodoro or whatever, one thing that you really wish you could do the whole day. So you're like, oh, I wonder if this is the fun one.
Unless it's like getting drunk and you're in the middle of recording.
I mean, the
Probably
Pomodoro hat has spoken.
Some things maybe leave till the end.
Maybe a piece of pie, whatever it is, like a cookie. Also, who eats a cookie for 25 minutes?
Well, if you eat the whole box.
Maybe. Let's see if I have anything. I took notes in the most inefficient thing. I just wanted to make sure I stayed on target because my jokes are sometimes a lot.
I love the dread, and I won't use the word dreading because I don't want to get out there on YouTube that I dread it, but I found that the only way I meet deadlines is if I record first thing. Even if my voice isn't good, I go in the booth. The only thing I'm allowed to do is get a cup of coffee, and I stand there.
Do you dread recording?
That's why I don't really want to use the word dread, but I look at it as the most important thing in my day. At least if I do that first, then it's done. It's what you said. Then I've succeeded.
But if it's the thing you really want to do, it's going to be easier for you to get that done no matter what time of day it is. If today you don't feel like recording is the thing that you can do, and you know what? This is going to be on YouTube, it's fine. Some days your body just can't do it. Your body can't sit there, your body can't read, your body can't. Oh, eyeball yoga, by the way, if your eyes aren't efficient and you can't scan, Google it. Eyeball yoga.
What is eyeball yoga? Okay, I know too long. Okay.
I'm trying to be
I've never heard of such a thing.
But basically it's just eyeball exercises, but it helps get them in contact. Also, something I've been getting into lately is music design for people with ADHD to help their brain realign and get more focused. There's YouTube videos like that where it just shows different sounds. Things like that will help your body be more efficient. Working out, getting the right amount of sleep, doing your eyeball yoga, eating the right nutrition, knowing your body well enough to know, Andy Arndt talks about this a lot, but she knows, she comes on Discord sometimes, she's like, well, it's 9:30. That means my brain's turning off. So either I come back in 45 minutes or I'm done for the day. You need to know your body that well so you know when your body's going to be most efficient and when it's just like a fool's errand to step in the booth. If you're just in the booth staring at the screen, getting a 5-to-1 ratio because you just can't get started today, then you're in the booth at the wrong time.
Oh, I have a trick though. I chant a Buddhist chant for 15 minutes and scroll Pinterest. It never fails. I'm telling you.
How long do you scroll Pinterest?
For 15 minutes. It's a Buddhist chant on YouTube, and it's a 15-minute chant.
Wait, you're doing them at the same time?
Yes. And I pull up the Buddhist chant, I'm chanting it, and I'm visually scrolling Pinterest. So I get 15 minutes of something I love doing. It brings out the child in me and gives me more of a play feeling.
What is the Buddhist chant saying? Don't worry about
Nam-myoho
material
Renge-kyo.
items. Don't worry about material items.
Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. It's like an LA thing. But yeah, it works.
I would then, if you know that works, then every morning, instead of while you're doing the Pinterest or whatever, try that listening while you're doing your steaming while you're, doing your eyeball yoga, whatever those like things are for your 15-minute warm up to get ready for the day, add those to your morning routine. That's fine. Like I can steam while scrolling Pinterest while listening. But then if you know that that's how you have to get in it, don't waste your time in the booth doing it. Do it every morning. Do your 15 minutes like clockwork. If you don't like start working right away, that's fine. Like do it again in the afternoon, but like have that 15-minute routine that always, it's not a trick. It's what your body needs to get going in the day. So like, don't treat it like a trick, treat it like a decision you made. This is my warm up. It has worked for me, so I'm just gonna always use it as my warm up.
Oh, good point.
The minute you call it a trick, it's like
it's like you're trying to trick yourself into working.
I figured out. I need Facebook for about 2 hours, and then
That's a good mental shift though. And you're right. Everything you've said, except for like the yoga eyeballs and all that, everything you've said comes down to it's not what you're doing, it's what you're thinking about what you're doing.
Yeah, positive psychology plays a lot into this, but also using your brain in the most efficient way is giving it a singular task to do. One task, meaning that you can't get distracted by a bajillion things because you're not allowing that during this time. It is a shift of focus, but it's not a monumental one. It's just like, hey, I'm still going to have all these thoughts throughout the day. I'm still going to do all the things I want, but I'm going to be very particular about when that happens. If you finished your 6 hours before like 2 in the afternoon and then you have the rest of the day to do like whatever, that's gravy, baby. Like like the people that plan out the day like, well, I have to be sitting here until 6 p.m. Then it's like those great days that you've gotten everything you want done. You don't have to push yourself. Some days you'll hit those 6 hours, you'll get exactly 2 finished hours, you'll do the things you had on your list, and you'll feel the urge to keep pressing. You'll feel the urge to go through and be like, well, because it's a good day, let's keep going. Or you can enjoy the fact that you had a great day and clock out and walk away from your computer. Clock out, because we don't have time clocks, but like walk away from your computer and enjoy life again. Enjoy your family, your friends, whatever. Like you enjoy too little if you spend so much time concerned with the exact structure of your day. So the way to be efficient is to know yourself, to do what you need to get done to stay on task, but don't force yourself to push for any more than that if you don't really want to. Because guess what? When you were at a 9 to 5, when 5 hit, you're like, I'm going to holler at you. You walked out. You didn't really like, well, it'd be great if I did 800 more emails so tomorrow I didn't have to do anything. Because that's not true. You would just do like 200 more emails tomorrow or whatever it is. So give yourself time to play, because the more you play and have fun, the more work won't suck because it's not taking up your whole day. It's just taking up a small structure. More questions?
I've got a really good question. I'm excited to hear your answer
salty.
to this. Well, I have a feeling that you will have an answer to this. Tim Saylor would like to know, do you have efficiency reading podcast recommendations? Especially podcast. I'm a bit of a junkie.
No.
So
I sometimes find podcasts inefficient. I know that's ironic because we do audiobooks. So the way I approach answering any question I have about efficiency or anything else is actually posing the question in a different way. You can learn a lot about what makes us efficient as narrators, like our bodies, those type of things, from like a sports psychology podcast. So I don't like looking for an exact thing because that's how what worked for somebody else. They didn't make those connections in their brain. Like even the things I'm telling you, like these are connections I made in my brain that may not work for you, but they will get your brain thinking about what will work for you. And that's the beauty of tech and everything else in our life, is that this is the last like frontier where we as adults get to play. We get to play. When we have a problem we want to solve, we get to play to find the answer. If we make a mistake, we fix it by finding the answer to that little mistake. But like, it's fun. It can be very fun to like ask yourself the question like, well, I wonder like what would be the most efficient amount of time I sit on my butt in the booth. That's how I found out about that 52-minute 17 study where like some researchers, I think in Britain, were like, ah, yes, let's have them sit there and, you know, do
Yeah, I bet that was in Britain. That's totally the way they work.
the other thing is like science-based. Changing your lighting can also impact your ability to like your focus. So like if during the day you change your lighting from like a white to like a yellow or whatever it is, like make it more bright, less bright, whatever, it can also help with your focus. Little hacks like that don't come from one singular source though. So instead of spending that 30 minutes like looking for like a podcast that's going to tell you all of these things, instead, I would challenge you to be like, I wonder about this, and have one of your Pomodoros or whatever you want to call it, like one of your 30-minute blocks, just go play and have fun and like see what questions come up from that first question. It's like, you know, like I wonder how I can get, you know, my neck to be, you know, untight. Like find that, and then they're going to show you some stretch like this, and then you're going to be like, oh, well, why does that tension happen? Oh, bad posture, and then all of a sudden you're sitting up straighter because you've learned it for yourself, because you are the only one that knows where that neural connection is going to be and take you through. If someone just speaks at you, you're not going to feel that same connection to the answer. You're just going to be like, well, Joe told me this, but fuck Joe. I had to say the one F word. So
but you're so right. I gotta say, you're so right, because while I'm listening to you, except
you're gonna tell me you were tuning out? Because
no, but except for the Pinterest thing, which I think everyone should do. And you're crazy if you don't get it. But beyond that, you gave me an idea that makes so much sense to me. And everyone's been saying take days off, and I've been trying so hard to schedule Saturday and Sunday in my thing. I don't like having 2 days off in a row. And what I do is I overdo 2 days, and then the third day I'm pretty much shattered. So I'm going to go back to my calendar and give myself a day off every third day or every...
I will tell you this though. You might not want to do that, and that's okay. But instead of working a full day, do like, okay, I will do 2 Pomodoros in the morning, or 2 blocks, like 2 hours worth of work Saturday and Sunday. That's it. That's all I get. What do I want to work on Saturday and Sunday for 2 hours? Because that still gives you so much time to do fun stuff. That means you take that's from your whole week though, right? So you still do the same amount for your whole week. You just spread it out over all the days. So like, if that's how you are, if you know walking away from work for 2 days is going to like hurt physically, fine.
Yeah, it is.
Keep adding, stretch out your 50 or whatever Pomodoros for the thing and hit those 2 days, but hit them softly, gently. Don't hit them with like, you know, boulders like, well, I'm going to work 18 hours today. It's going to be amazing.
Because they make it sound like you take 2 days off and you're buffing. I'm on Facebook and like, oh my God, I'm not recording.
Oh, here's a really good way to get over that. I challenge everyone, take a week off from social. A whole week. Take it off of your phone, have someone change your password if you can't be trusted, or clear your cache and cookies, and then, you know, whatever. But like, it really helps you understand how much you're doing it. You can bring it back after a week. I promise it'll still be there and everyone will still be fighting. I'm kidding. There's also nice things that happen.
Having someone change your Facebook.
Like, yeah, have an accountability buddy that like that changes it for you, and then a week later, as long as you give them the money, like,
that's a good idea, because I can't be trusted. I've tried, it's impossible.
Right. But like, it's okay that we do social, but it shouldn't be like the thing that leads us. It should be the thing that we enjoy and walk away from, just like anything else we take pleasure in this life.
And we shouldn't be waking up in 30-minute increments.
You shouldn't be doom scrolling. You shouldn't be like looking like what fight is happening and like whose side am I on, and you're like whatever. Like it honestly, like when I first started, I was so involved in social because I was learning. Oh, peace. Yes, sorry if you have to leave. I realize I talk too much and we've gone over, but
No, 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 no. We always lose a few right at 9 o'clock.
okay.
We always
Like,
went a little over.
I was
And
just,
don't miss the part where they say you're the narrator guru.
I wasn't reading the chat, so I'm glad you told me not to. So, like, all these people are saying nice things. Like, well, I can't read it. Like, sorry for giving me compliments. Like, I was told not to look.
No, I will let you know. They all love you.
Everyone else was saying mean things.
Oh, somebody said also you can set up Laura said also you can set up a time limit. I love my pop-up saying you have spent 30 minutes on Facebook. I've trained myself to log off.
Thumb going, yeah, keep going. It's fine.
Yeah. I've hidden my phone. I've hidden my phone in different places in the house, in my bird's room, because I know I won't wake him up once he's in bed. And I still get that phone.
Oh, the time limit thing works really great once you've done the week off. Like, I actually did like all of November last year. It was crazy, but it was actually glorious. Like, I don't say that to be like, you know, oh yeah, she's such a hippie. But like, no, it was really nice. It was nice to like text my friends if I wanted to talk to them, or like I left Messenger on. So like, and I told people when I like turned off Facebook, like, hey, I'm still on Messenger if you want to say hey, but that's all I'm doing right now. And they still could reach out. It's not like I shut people out of my life, like whatever. Like, we feel such a deep rooted connection to social, but like, once upon a time in a not so like distant past, like we didn't have Facebook and we didn't have MySpace. We had email chain letters that we had to ignore, and like before that we had snail mail. Like, my point is, we'll be fine with a week.
It rewires your brain, and you're trained like Pavlov's dog. When that signal goes off, a hit of dopamine, and dopamine doesn't satisfy you or give you a rush of pleasure. Dopamine makes you crave more.
Yeah.
So,
and it makes you feel like you're missing out. Like the kids call it FOMO, FOMO. You know, it's a slang thing. But like, you feel like you're missing out, but you're not really. You're experiencing your life. Like, if you feel like you're missing out, that's because you're not giving yourself time to actually enjoy your life. You're experiencing everyone else's life and thinking that's your own life, and it's not. So give yourself a week off. Give yourself a week to figure out your efficiency during that time, the time you would be spending on Facebook. Instead, find ways to make yourself more efficient. And then after that week, if you find yourself like really jonesing for a hit, I can't stop you. I can't even force you to take the week off because you're your own human. But you will learn something about yourself. You'll learn what you were using it for. Like, you'll realize when those cravings hit, and then be able to decide what you were trying to actually mask. And then that'll help you free yourself up to experience life again. But I am not a trained psychologist, so that was just me speaking from personal experience.
I love that. I'm going to try to do that.
Little efficiency hacks for like 2 minutes. So if you stayed this long, now you get to hear me blab about those. CRMs, or text expanders, are going to be faster for getting emails sent out. So if you find yourself writing the same information multiple times, you can use a plugin for your browser called a text expander. Google it. There's a bunch of different ones. One is actually called Text Expander, but all it does is you can write out like the paragraph of information that you've retyped 18 million times, and then it'll look for a key phrase that you type in, and then it'll just auto-populate that for you. So you can then go through and, snazzy it up for the person you're sending it to, but it saves you time for that. Other things are, the reminders of the Google search optimization. The thing about how efficient your DAW is, like, anyone that's seen me around knows that James and I, who, we use Reaper. It's a thing that we do, but every single DAW out there can be optimized to be more efficient. I am a geek, and James is a retired geek, but whatever. But we write little snippets of custom actions that help one keystroke do like 18 things at the same time. So like that kind of customization helps, just helps, right? Studio One can do that to a certain level, but not to the same, granularity. Audacity has it too. Reaper just has like every single thing you could possibly think of in the list, as opposed to the other two. Audacity's probably second, and then Studio One's very limited with what you can add in there, but you can still do a lot. The others have it too. I'm not going to name all of them. No one has paid me for endorsements on this program. But knowing your DAW, knowing any tool you use super well is just going to help you. So instead, this is going to sound really counterintuitive, but instead of reaching out to me and being like, Jen, teach me like all you know about Reaper, I would say first,
reach out to James.
No.
I'm just kidding.
You can reach out to James.
Forgive me, James.
But the point I was trying to make is not that I don't want you to reach out to either of us or any different coaches, but if you play first, you know what your actual questions are, right? Because like some things are going to be so second nature. You're going to be like, cool, well, I definitely know how to do that. And what's the first thing that they talk about when you get coaching? The thing you freaking figured out yourself already via YouTube. You're like, thanks, Chief. Figure that one out, did ya? So if you play with that first, then you can come in with like 20 questions of like, yeah, but I thought it'd be really cool if it did this. Do you know how it works with that? And you can get really into the nitty gritty of knowing and understanding the software that you use day in and out. And it might seem terrifying, whatever, but it's honestly only terrifying if you start thinking that it has any repercussions if you make a mistake. It really doesn't. Don't do it on a file that you need to save. Like, do it on a template that can get messed up. Then you can play all you want and it doesn't matter. Like, oh, I recorded over me talking like this for 8 hours. Guess I'm never going to use that for the grandchildren. Like, fine, you don't need to. But I think that's the big thing. Like, the more you know the tools, all of your tools that you use day in and out, the more you can so like an efficiency thing is first, you know, the process. The slowest way you do it is still fine. Like, this is exactly what I need to do. How can I make this process that I do that's really slow and inefficient right now more efficient? What little step can I make more efficient in the process? But first, you need to know that first step. The thing of all the little granular things, like in software engineering, like how do you make a PB&J? And then they're like, okay, well, first you grab the bread, you open the zip tie, you open it up, you put the zip tie down, then you take out the bread and the other slice.
That's what I was saying about the coaches. It drives me crazy. People are like, should I just go to this coach? Is this coach any good? I'm like, why are you going to them? What is your question I went to Emily Lawrence with set questions for each session.
And then it was
this
more
is what I want to know.
Yeah.
And she's every coach, you'll notice every single time I go to a coach, I'm raving saying they're the best coach on earth, but I'm helping them be the best coach because I know what I need from
You're going to the right coach for the problem you have.
Yeah.
And you'll feel more fulfilled from any coaching you get or anything that you do by knowing exactly what you want to get out of it. Yeah. A lot of people feel very lackluster about some of the coaching they've received or some of the feedback they've received because they didn't know what they actually were looking for out of it. So there's no basis of comparison then, right? Like, you're like, well, I mean, it was okay. It's like,
yeah,
but,
you've got to take responsibility. You're teaching yourself.
When they ask you, it's like when you go into a job interview and they ask, like, do you have any questions? And you don't have any, it's like, okay, but did you want to get anything out of this? Like, it doesn't sound good, right? Like in a job interview, like it's the same thing on any other aspect of your life. If you don't know what you want, it's going to be really hard to answer any of the questions for you. Yeah. So I realize this has been very psychological today. And
but I think that's the key, don't you? Don't you think that's the key? Because it's what you said. If you just told people certain tips, they'd go, yeah, put it on the list or probably not, and never do them.
And that's why I'm trying to teach and instill, like teaching you to fish, to find your most efficient self. So comfort is a huge thing with that, right? Like if you're comfortable in Audacity, that's not the same thing about like, and I'm not knocking Audacity, but it's not the same thing as being efficient. It just means you're comfortable. So even if you make like Audacity the most efficient it can be, it might not be as efficient as another tool that will serve you better. So, but also don't ask somebody else to tell you what DAW to use. That is, because everyone's just going to say what they use. Of course I'm going to say Reaper. Did I study a bunch of other, like, but I tried a bunch of different ones. I actually own a bunch of them, but like Reaper's the one that stuck for me. That doesn't mean, because even the way I use it, and I've trained some people in here even on it, but like that doesn't mean it's the best for you. So that's why I'm saying play. Learn, like download the demos of each one, find out which one clicks with you, find which one will grow with you, and go with that. It might be Reaper, and if it is, I'd be happy to help you with your custom actions. So we're James. But if it's Studio One, that is also fine. There are lots of other coaches. I've even helped people with that, because once you know one DAW, you can pretty much, switch around. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to play. Have fun. Enjoy life. Like, you chose a profession where you actually get the opportunity to enjoy living with other stuff going on around you, having hobbies and having time for hobbies, and not being so caught up on the one thing that you're doing the whole day. Because living a good life, being happy, drinking your eggnog, watching the Christmas movies, whatever, like that is going to help it be easier to do your job tomorrow. Being happier today because you allowed yourself the mental break that you needed to enjoy, right? Like, I usually have an easier time in the booth the next day if I've had, time to unwind and truly relax the night before and actually get sleep. Then I'm usually more on point the next day. If I was, I don't know, I've been really into TikTok lately, but if I was scrolling through TikTok until 3 a.m. and then I went to bed and then I woke up at 8 and I'm not really feeling it today. It's because I set myself up for that by not mindfully having fun the night before, just aimlessly wasting time instead.
And you're the common denominator, aren't you? Because I remember my corporate job, I was a workaholic that was burdened and tired and shooting all over myself and always having to do things. And 5 years doing the best job in the world that I love more than anything. I'm a workaholic, shooting all over myself, busier than I've ever been. How the hell am I busy?
Right? You don't actually have to, you could just have a diaper.
You bring yourself, you have to actually teach yourself to be happy.
But you are, you're your own, you're everything to yourself when you work for yourself. You're your boss. You're the accountant. I mean, you can of course outsource these, but you have to understand that just because you have all those roles doesn't mean you have to be the bad boss, the uptight boss about stuff. Be the chill boss. How usually you get easier work, work was so much easier when the chill boss was there. You still got stuff done, but it was the chill boss, the guy that was sitting back and he's like, hey guys, how was last night? Good? Great. Do you mind getting that report done by 5? We can make it 6:30, but okay, cool. Somehow he sounded like Keanu at the end of that, but it's fine. I know Kung Fu. But that's, be the laid back boss that still gets stuff done. The laissez-faire attitude, still gets stuff done. Because really, we just have to get it done today. It's not, well, I need this on my desk by noon. Whatever today means. You've set that deadline, that's fine. But it can be today. So ease into it. If you want to enjoy, oh my God, please. Enjoy your coffee looking out the window and enjoying nature instead of staring at the screen. I don't like sippers that work. Second cup of coffee is fine to sip in front of the screen, but first cup of coffee, do it away from the computer. Whatever works for you. Anyway, soapbox dismounted. I apologize about the coffee. Any other questions, concerns, comments?
I think we're good with the questions.
My cat.
Some people have logged off. Dog's Desperate for a Walk by Tim. I think we are good.
I think so. I hope you guys got everything out of there. I feel
now you've motivated everyone. They're all going to go off for their day and have a nice coffee and stare out the window and not do anything.
And that will be good enough.
I'm going back to my schedule and I'm going to redo the entire thing, and I'm going to put 52-minute, 17-minute Pomodoros all through the week and do triple the amount of work I was going to do. I'm so excited. I know exactly how it's going to work.
Well, I'm glad this was at least fun for you all. At least you laughed a little bit throughout the day, if nothing else. But thank you all for showing up. If you have questions, you can find me on the Facebook that I just told you to be off of, or my email, Jen Blom.
Can I ask one last thing? Can you say something to our YouTube people that are going to be watching you through the centuries? Just one last word to the YouTube crowd.
I better have won a Tony by now.
That's a good last word.
Bye, friends.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much for your time, Jennifer. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.